How to Have a Quickie with Your Data Part 2 is an episode of the Degrees Freedom Project, videos on chemical and thermal principles. Definitions and additional details can be found in the webpage link in the description. The two videos, How to Have a Quickie with Your Data Part 1 and Part 2, quickly explain and demonstrate the three basic tools we will use to fit or characterize data with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets have a lot more data fitting tools than the ones we're going to cover in these videos, but this set will get you through most everything that we need for the remaining DOFPro videos. The linked DOFPro stats videos are much more complete in discussing how to do data fitting. If you really want to get into the details, please go watch the stats videos on the playlist, which is linked in the website. As a review, let's list some of the built-in functions in LibreOffice. The first data fitting functions that we use calculate the mean or arithmetic average and the standard deviation from a set of values. They were the average and stdv.s functions. The second set of data fitting functions we used to calculate the slope and intercept of a dataset. They were the slope and intercept functions. Finally, there is solver. The focus of this video is solver, a multi-purpose tool that will, among other things, maximize or minimize a multivariate function. We are going to use it to do a nonlinear least squares fitting of a multivariate function to a set of data. The steps in using solver are as follows. First, you need to set up the fitting function. Then you need to set up the array of fitting values, and you need to keep the magnitudes of those fitting values roughly equal within an order of magnitude or two. You then need to calculate the sum of the squares of the residuals or the sum of the squares of the errors, depending on your mood. The SSE is basically just the sum of the squares of the differences between your measured values and your fitted values. Then you need to use solver to minimize the sum of the squared errors by varying your array of fitted values. As explained in How to Have a Quickie with Your Data Part 1, for a second order reaction, the concentration equals the initial concentration divided by 1 plus the initial concentration times the rate coefficient times time. For our problem, we'll replace the C sub A and the CA naughts with the fitting values. Also, the fitted K will be K naught fit times the exponential of negative EA fit over RT. These are the formulas that we will enter to calculate our fitted values. We'll next enter guesses for the initial values of our fitted parameters, and then enter the formulas we listed in step 1 into our spreadsheet. Next, we'll take the difference between the data value and the fitted value and square it. Strictly speaking, these are the squares of the residuals, but they're usually called the squares of the errors. We then sum all of them to get our SSE, either the sum of the squared errors or the sum of the squared residuals, depending on how precise you like your statistics. Finally, we will select our SSE cell, call up a solver from the menu, choose to minimize our SSE, enter our fitting parameters, and solve. Here is a demo of how to actually enter the information for our dataset. We have a set of experimental initial values for our concentrations, our CA naughts. These will make good guesses for our fitted CA naughts, so we will copy and paste them. We're using the log of K naught and the log of EA for our fitted parameters, rather than K naught and EA, because K naught can vary by tens of orders of magnitude, and EA by several orders of magnitude, and solver doesn't work well with dynamic ranges that wide. We need initial values for the log of K naught and the log of EA. I'm going to guess 40 and 11.5, call them lucky guesses. You can actually start from a wide variety of initial guesses, but if they're too far off, you will either not converge or converge to an unreasonable answer. We then will calculate K naught as the exponential of the log of K naught. And EA is the exponential of the log of EA. Finally, so we don't have to enter it repeatedly, we'll calculate the negative of EA over R. With the preliminaries out of the way, we can enter our fitting function. The function is the concentration of A naught. We type equals, then click on our fitting CA naught 290. Since it should always refer to row 28, but refer to columns B, C, D, or E as appropriate, we'll hit F4 until there is a $sign before the 28. Then we type /paren 1+ and click on CA naught 290 again, and hit F4 as before, for that temperature and time calculated from our fitting parameters. We then type asterisk and click on K naught and F4 once for an absolute reference. Then we type asterisk exp paren and click on -EA over R and hit F4 once. We then type / and click on the temperature 290. It needs to stay on row 3 but change columns, so we hit F4 twice. We type paren asterisk and click on the time, and hit F4 3 times so it stays in column A, but the row varies. A final closing paren and return finishes our formula. We then drag right and down to fill in all of our fitted CAs. Now we need the squared errors. We type in equals paren, then click on the first fitted value and subtract from it the first data value. Type closing paren circumflex and a 2 and hit return. Then, as before, drag right and then down. We now have all of our squared residuals. We need the sum of all of them to minimize. We click on the cell and type equals sum paren, then select our entire array of squared error values, type paren and hit return. With the SSE cell selected, we go up to the Tools menu and select Solver. We choose Minimum and click in the By Changing Cells box. We then go down and choose our 6 fitting parameters, the CA naughts, LNK naught, and LNEA. We double check our options. The first one, DEPS, should work fine. Click OK and then click Solve. There are 2 conditions for the solver to quit running. The first is if it's reached the end of its iterations. The second is if the minimum isn't getting any smaller. If the minimum isn't getting any smaller, you've reached the minimum. So you've got your best fit parameters. Click OK and then click Keep Results. These are our 6 best fit parameters for nonlinear least squares. Here's a comparison between the values from the linear least squares and the nonlinear least squares. The nonlinear CA naughts are all much closer to the actual values of 1, 2, 1.5, and 0.75, but the K naught and EA are slightly worse. However, either set would be acceptable. The takeaways from the video are 1. Spreadsheets have built-in tools for minimizing or maximizing multivariate functions. 2. With proper setup, the multivariate optimization tool can be used to do nonlinear least squares data fitting. Thanks for watching. This video was brought to you by the DOFPro team.